So you've decided to become one of those people. One of those people that thinks that regular old mead is just not enough anymore. Well, today I decided to be one of those people too. So let's make some maple mead together. Hi everybody, my name is Anthony. Welcome to Cheap Brew. Today I'm going to show you how to make maple mead, also known as Acerglyn. Now I did a little bit of research to try to figure out what everybody else is using as far as a ratio from honey to maple syrup, and I didn't really find any good guidance, but what I will say is that I made a decision. Let me explain by running you through the ingredients that we're going to use for this project. For starters, obviously we're going to be using some honey. I chose to use 32 ounces of raw, unfiltered honey. I'm going to be combining that with 16 ounces of pure maple syrup that was made in the USA. Additionally, we're going to be using just some regular old tap water to fill our 1 gallon fermenter up really close to the top. We're going to add half a packet of Cote de Blanc yeast, that's a Red Star wine yeast, and we're going to mix that into a little slurry before we put it in the jar with a little bit of Fermented K. A couple optional ingredients that you don't have to use, but I'm choosing to. At the end of primary, so in secondary, I'll be adding a cinnamon stick and a vanilla bean, hoping to add a little bit of that breakfasty pancake kind of flavor that the maple syrup would otherwise bring if it didn't all ferment out of our must. If you're trying to pinch pennies, this is not a good project for you. Out the door, $40.10 once you consider the cinnamon stick and the vanilla. So now that I've given you a fair amount of sticker shock, let's get into the steps that we're going to take to make our maple mead. Step 1 is to take these 2 jars and empty them into the fermenter. The second step is to take your pot and heat up about 1 quart of water to maybe 150, 160 degrees. We're going to use partly hot water and partly cold water to achieve the desired temperature that we want for our yeast pitching that's going to happen here in the next minute or two. Step 3, we're going to mix in the honey and the maple syrup until it is thoroughly dissolved. Now that our honey and maple syrup have been thoroughly mixed together, it's on to step number 4. Step number 4 is going to be pitching the yeast and taking a gravity reading. We are almost done for the evening. The only problem is that it's just a little too hot for me to wish to pitch the yeast just yet. I'm going to let it cool down for a little bit. In fact, I'm actually going to help it cool down by letting this sit in some cold water in my sink. That should get us down to 70 degrees in no time. And 25 minutes later, we're all done with the water bath. I threw a little ice in there to help speed things along, and now we're at 75 degrees, which means we're ready to take our gravity reading, and we are also ready to make a yeast starter, and in about 10 minutes or so, we will be all done with brew day. Oh, that's a lot. I think I'm gonna have to call this Jupiter mead because the gravity is high. Planet pun. Leo, goddammit man, planet pun. There is so much sugar in here. The gravity reading that I just took was 1.132, or 17% potential alcohol by volume. I would be surprised if the yeast finished eating all of the sugar, which means we'll be left with some, which means we will not be having to back sweeten. Time will tell, I suppose, but that works for me. We're ready to put this back in here, and our yeast slurry is ready to go in, and that's all there is to it. And now that we're done following all of the steps, let me introduce you to our Jupiter Acerglyn, because of the gravity. Our maple mead, Leo, Our maple mead is ready to go into primary fermentation, and if I had to guess, I'm going to measure that number in weeks and not days. There's a lot of sugar for the yeast to unpack in here, but I'll launch us into the fermentation montage by putting this in the cupboard. Stop. There we go. It's been 50 days since we started fermenting our Acerglyn must, and it's done. I will admit it did take several weeks. I think 3 to 4 weeks for this airlock to stop showing any signs of movement, and to be honest, there's still a couple of bubbles popping out from the yeast at the bottom, but I don't think they're doing any fermentation because this has actually started to clear just a tiny little bit. So it's time to rack this and stick it into a new clean fermentation vessel. But before we do that, I'm going to take a gravity reading to see what our alcohol by volume is, and I'm expecting something significant. So the gravity of the situation here is 1.002. I'm gonna calculate the ABV real quick. I know this is gonna be high. I'm gonna do the math. 17.06%. I'll be honest, I didn't expect the yeast to be able to do that. I figured they would die out around 16%. I'm starting to wonder, maybe those bubbles in there, maybe it's still fermenting because it's 17% and anything above a 1.0, I'll bet you they're still going. And I'll bet you this tastes sweet. Let's find out. I'm anticipating this is gonna be just a little bit on the yeasty side. I also expect it's gonna have a little bit of perhaps carbonation to it. Sweet and yeasty. Cheers. That's good, really good. It's so hot though. I hope they stop eating this shit soon because I want it to stay pretty close to this. Anyway, this right here needs to go into a new fermenter so it can finish up and clear, drop all this yeast stuff out. This is gonna be another good one. Now that I've successfully managed to rack and spill a little bit of our Jupiter mead, it is ready to go and clear in the cupboard. I'm gonna let it do that for as long as necessary. Basically, I'm gonna watch it until it is a nice, clear, transparent mead. And then once it is transparent, I'm gonna drop in a cinnamon stick and a vanilla bean for about 2 weeks. And that's gonna add that nice little breakfasty flavor, hopefully. And then it'll be ready to go into the bottles after the racking that we'll do after that. We're wasting time with it just sitting here on the table. I'm gonna put it away. It's been 37 days since I put the cinnamon stick and the vanilla bean into our Acerglyn. And I know I said that I would be taking it out at 2 weeks, but last time I tried to take it out, I actually stirred up the sediment too much. So I decided best course of action would be to let it sit and clear back so that I wouldn't have to, deal with it. And I'm actually glad that that happened because the smell of this thing is so beautiful. The cinnamon and the vanilla have blended together really well over the course of the month. Given that it was perfectly clear, I felt like it was time to rack this evening. And so here we are. This is a beautiful, clear Acerglyn ready for back sweetening. It's gonna be a little bit of this and a little bit of some help. What I'm going for is a nice blend of these two. What I'll probably end up doing is going in at about a 1/4 cup at a time of the honey and the maple syrup until we're at a gravity of probably about 1.020-ish. And if that's good, then I'm gonna let it sit, make sure it doesn't start fermenting again. And then later in the week, I think I'll bottle it. And I'm really looking forward to that. So I went ahead and added in a 1/4 cup of each honey and maple syrup, and we are left with a gravity of 1.015, which I think will still end up not being quite sweet enough. But I also poured myself a little itty bitty sample so we can figure out if it is sweet enough or not. Let's examine this specimen, shall we? It smells good. It smells like a really cinnamony kind of, it's almost like what you'd imagine apple pie moonshine to be, but like the mead version of it, because it's got that honey tint to it. So let's see what it tastes like. Wow, that's definitely spiced. It's still hot. That's actually really good. I might settle for a little bit more honey and maple syrup in there. I'm gonna play with that a little bit, but this is solid. Anyway. It's mellowed out since the last time I've tried it as well. It doesn't taste nearly as hot. It definitely can use more honey to kind of mix in with that cinnamon and the vanilla bean. We're getting close. So this sample is 1.024. Cheers. There's that mead bit. There's the mead. Yep, I think that's it. That's where we're gonna leave this. As far as the back sweetening goes, to recap, it's 1/4 cup of maple syrup and 1/2 cup of unfiltered honey. And you get yourself a nice tasty little Acerglyn right there. As far as the next steps go, I'm gonna let this sit just to make super sure that it's not gonna kick back into some kind of fermentation. At 17% ABV, I seriously doubt that's going to happen. In the process, it looks like it got just a little foggier, so I might let this sit for a little bit longer just to see if any of that clarity comes out as things start to kind of equalize and dissolve a little bit more. Maybe 1 or 2 more weeks, maybe up to a month, I guess, really depending on how long it takes to clear back up, but I'm super satisfied with this. This is a delicious Acerglyn. It's all murky at the bottom. That's all we're gonna get. It is now day 161 of making our Jupiter Acerglyn, and as you can see, I've gone ahead and put it into the bottles. It took a little over 2 months to get to this stage here, but it is just a beautiful crystal clear color, and I cannot wait to see how this looks with all the labels and the PVC shrink wrap, and then I get to stick it on my wine rack, which I think is gonna be really cool. I'm gonna put corks in this, and then we will do one final tasting with this bottle. Just like that, we've got 3 750 milliliter wine bottles worth of Jupiter Acerglyn at 17% ABV. It is crazy to think that I started this project 161 days ago, but look at how pretty that is. I think that for 161 days, the work has been good. I did take the third 750 milliliter bottles worth and turn it into 2 of these 375 milliliter bottles. I just really like the way the bottles look. I love the way this project turned out, and I would like to do one final taste test of it chilled. I'm gonna pour myself a glass of this, and we're gonna dive in to as many finer details as I can without being totally ridiculous. Here is what we're dealing with. A beautiful cheap brew cup. You can get one of these on the internet, by the way. Just go to the cheap brew store, www.cheapbrew.store, and you can pick yourself up one of these things, as well as the Fermentation is the yeast of my worries shirt. But anyway, that's neither here nor there. This is what we're worried about right now. It is just such a pleasant aroma. The cinnamon, the vanilla, the honey, it's like a big old it reminds me a little bit of French toast, to be honest. I would love to buy this if it was a candle. I would smell this candle all day long. But unfortunately, this is not about to become a candle, but it is about to become drunk. Cheers. That's so good. 17% ABV. It's got a bite. The maple syrup taste is there. It's slightly overpowered, but in a balanced way by the honey. And the mouthfeel is superb. And it really does feel otherworldly. It's just hard to hate this. It's just the best mead that I've ever made. And it's clear to me that I need to have one more sip before I let you go. It'd be crazy not to make this. Let me know in the comment section if you would have changed anything about this recipe or done anything different. I would love to know what you guys do when you make your Acerglyn, if you're already watching this or if you've made them previously. Otherwise, don't forget to hit the like button, subscribe if you want to see me attempt more home brewing, and remember to drink more homebrew. And I'll catch you on the next one. Cheers.